Hi, and welcome to Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And please check out my Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search Tom Scioli. Follow me on Twitter, at Tom Scioli, and on Instagram, at Tom_Scioli.
You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
And so, we got our green screen background.
Mm-hmm. I'm a greenhead.
Yeah.
Like the greenery. I love Kermit the Frog, Blanca, Yoda, Alfred Hitchcock and the Three Detectives, and the Green Ghost, Luigi,
Yeah.
and
St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day. I'm a greenhead. I have a little bit of Moss Man, on Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame.
Bowling Green, I love them too.
Village Green Preservation Society, Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing. And now Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Gawain and the Green Knight. Yeah, we were talking, on our way to see that movie, how do you pronounce his name? Because I always thought it was Gawain, but I'm I'm sure that's not it. And then the movie, the way they answer that is every character pronounces it differently.
Yes, I was I'm gonna pick a name and go with it, like Bronson Pinchot or Pinchot.
Yeah, Charles Bronson Pinchot. I think the first person who says his name in it is King Arthur, and I don't in this movie. It's kind of whether you know all this Arthurian knight stuff or not, it's kind of immaterial. And if you do, maybe you get a little more charge out of it or whatever. But they just it's a lot more hinted. Excalibur is in it, but nobody's Excalibur, you got to kind of underplay this stuff, or else it turns into Monty Python. But it's he's holding it, and they're it's the sword, and it's glowing and stuff, and this is King Arthur, but they're not. 'Tis Arthur. We are in Camelot.
Yeah, it was weird. The Green Knight told him he's gonna fart in his general direction.
Yeah. And so King Arthur calls him Garwin.
Yeah, when the movie it started rolling, I was listening for how they were pronouncing it, and the one person was there he is.
He called him Garwin, and I was oh, I guess that's I wouldn't have guessed. I had a couple different possibilities in mind, and that wasn't one of them. And then sometimes it would be it was Gauchen or Gaffen or Gauchen. It was different things. So I think. Just in terms of etymology or whatever, I think it's Gavin.
Yeah,
it's that Gavin kind of evolved out of that. So it's whether whichever way you want to hit that W, if you want to give it the sort of V or W. Oh, there's also there's all those there's Gaelic spellings and pronunciations, and then there's Welsh spellings and pronunciations, and I think. At least within the mythology, Sir Gawain. I'll just call him Gawain because that's what I've always called him. But I think in the mythology, he's Scottish.
Yeah, when there was that scene in the hall when he's there's our entertainment. Noel and Liam Gallagher, the Gallagher brothers. He's
I was curious about this, how this movie was going to go, because when you think about the Knights of the Round Table and all that stuff, Gawain is not, he's not one of the superstars. He's not Lancelot. He's not Galahad. He's not not King Arthur. Not Sir Bors. He wasn't one of the guys who found the Grail or anything. He he's and in the Arthurian mythology, but this story, the Green Knight, is pretty famous. It's sort of this standalone story, and it is kind of Sir Gawain's finest moment, his big adventure, and I guess because he's a fuck up, because he's not one of these super awesome knights, it kind of makes him a better character, somebody we can identify with. The other ones are kind of these built up, kind of I don't know, superheroes or whatever, and he's just a regular guy.
Yeah, in the movie we see him he's boozing a lot, he's sleeping in a lot,
yeah, he and that is all very true to the mythology. Like he's in the mythology, like he's kind of like adult. Like in the mythology, he's not very smart. He's not very handsome. He's not very charismatic. He's not a great fighter. He's not like super brave. But people like him. Like he's like a good drinking buddy or whatever in the mythology. He's like well liked, and he's got a good heart. You know, like that's kind of like his character. And like I always kind of pictured Gawain as kind of like Brian Blessed, but maybe with like red hair and and all, like the Scottish character in Samurai Jack always seemed like he was like modeled after Sir Gawain. Also like Volstagg from the Thor.
Merlin's alive.
Like you know, you don't really think about like who you're picturing when you're like reading something until like you watch a movie of it, and then all of a sudden it became very clear to me. It's like, oh yeah, I've always been picturing Brian Blessed with red hair, you know. And it wasn't until I saw like Sir Gawain in a movie that I was like, okay, yeah. And I guess like for me, like I don't like in the movie it says, you know, Gawain in the Green Knight, you know, written by Anonymous, and like, you know, these Arthur stories and stuff, they're kind of like, you know, cobbled together and stuff. So like the two big sources I think of is like Sir Thomas Malory, who wrote Le Morte d'Arthur. Like that's kind of like, he was like the guy who got it all down on paper, all these like sort of like oral traditions and stuff, got them on paper, and it survived. You know, like it made it here. And then the other source is like The Once and Future King by T.H. White, which is like a much more modern thing. Like, you know, Thomas Malory was writing in like, you know, the Middle Ages or something, and T.H. White was writing like, I think around like World War II or something. Okay. Like it's like a very modern time. But those are like the two pillars of sort of my like understanding of Arthur, are those two works.
The like this came this came out of nowhere. Like I had no, like, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, like that story, it's like you could have, I could have never, like, they're like, in the future you're gonna see this like glossed up A24 film on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, you gotta be shitting me. I did not see this coming.
Were you familiar with the story at all, like
I
prior to the movie
in college?
Okay, yeah.
But I remember literally not, like I basically was going back into it cold. I had to read it for a medieval studies class or something. Okay.
Like, my introduction... Like, it is a standout. It's a standout story, and, like, it's not... Like, again, it's funny, because it's, like, you don't think of it as, like, the big... Like, you know, it's not, like, part of the Grail quest. It's not, like, Sir Lancelot and Guinevere. It's, like, you know, this kind of oddball story, but I think that might be, like, why it persists, because it's, like, so oddball. The thing that put it on my radar was, like... During one of those like Joseph Campbell interviews, maybe it was like the Ed Moyer interview or whatever, he like tells the story of Gawain and the Green Knight, and it like, and he, you know, talks about what it means and this and that. So like that's kind of what put it in my head as like this kind of like significant story, and then you know, later on I got into all that like Arthur stuff.
Like I need to go back and give it a read here. Like. And all I'm gonna see is Dev Patel, like that's in the role.
Yeah, he's like he's like a hunkier version. Like he's a better looking version of Gawain. And like Gawain, I also like in the Prince Valiant comics, Gawain was kind of like. He was like a ladies' man. He was like you know, like all the ladies loved him. He was a womanizer. He'd always be like jumping out of some maiden's window or whatever. But like my impression in the books, or you know, or in the mythology, is that he was inept with the ladies too. Like he just couldn't do anything right, you know. And
with Dev, it's like it plays like the lyre. It's like and now Sir Gawain went into LA Fitness and is working on his traps.
You know, it's kind of, you know, cool. Like Sir Gawain gets his moment, like, and he gets like the Hollywood treatment. He gets kind of like glammed up because like in the books he is like, you know, like it would be kind of like Danny McBride, you know, in Your Highness, you know.
Me. Yeah, that's the he's the real Gawain. They're like, yes, I'm going to sculpt my goatee to a fine sheen.
And like also, like another Gawain and the Green Knight thing is like, Neil Gaiman wrote this book. American Gods, and then they like made it into a TV series. Like I read the book, I never saw the TV series, but like they have like a big element of it is sort of like a retelling of the Gawain and the Green Knight story. They just changed some of the characters, but it's the same thing. It's this like Eastern European god called like Chernabog or whatever. He has this big hammer, and so the guy like, you know, has to like, you know 10 years from now or whatever, like he has to like go to Chernabog and let Chernabog like bang his hammer on his head, you know.
I'd be like, see ya, Chernabog.
I really liked the approach to kind of like magic and like mysticism.
Yes.
In it.
Oh yeah, me too. Like, we were talking that seeing Snake Eyes hit the ninja like switch for us, and this like fed the Lego castle. Like we're just craving like that like a medieval.
Yeah, it's been a while since like the last Lord of the Rings movie.
Yeah,
yeah, you're right. Like it's not, you know, like I always liked that kind of stuff. I always liked, you know, like Excalibur and stuff, and like sort of like whenever they try to do like a modern like Arthurian Knights thing and try to like, you know, bring it into the now or whatever. Like it never like I just don't really connect with it. You know?
Yeah, this felt like they were hipping it up, but it still felt like natural.
Yeah,
it wasn't like they didn't put like a Knight's Tale. It's like we got a soundtrack by Queen or whatever.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It was still. I like the design, like how you said with the mysticism, like pretty cool the way they did like spells and like.
Yeah, it wasn't like
magic.
It wasn't like Dungeons and Dragons or something where like a wizard like shoots fire out of his hands or something. Like it's
more subtle.
Yeah, it was like genuine mysteries. It was kind of like a little bit of like horror and surrealism or whatever. Like he enters these situations and you're not even quite sure what's going on. Like there's mystery, like real mystery to it.
When spoiler alert at the beginning, the Green Knight got decapitated.
Yeah,
there was like the real blood coming out was like kind of like shocking me, and then everyone like laughed. It was a secret. The Green Knight is a secret Christmas movie. A lot of Christmas vibes in it.
A bit the red and the green.
Yeah,
and it takes place at Christmas. Yeah, like I didn't. Like do any like homework or anything ahead of watching it or ahead of talking about it. Like I didn't go to check and be like, okay, how's this like line up with the mythology? I'm just kind of going by my recollections. And like, I mean, of course, like, you know, in like the story, it's like, you know, it's like there's, you know, the Black Knight, the Green Knight, the Red Knight, you know, there's all these different knights and each one has a gimmick and like maybe they have like, yeah, like it was a knight with like green armor or whatever. But then in this, he's kind of like a swamp thing, or like or moss man, or man of the forest, or
he's
whatever.
Like, you smell that? It's pine wafting into the castle.
And he like, you know, it's like, so when he chops his head off and stuff, it's like, you know, like he's an ent or something, like you know.
Tom, bringing up like the different colors of the knights too, it's connecting back to our ninja vibes, like from the American Ninja series, like Technicolor ninjas. You got your ninjas in the blue outfits. You got your knights in your red and blue. Like I can't get enough. Like
yeah,
give
like,
me multicolored of
like when I was like really into all that kind of knight stuff, it read to me like, you know, like superheroes or whatever, where it's like, okay, now you're fighting this guy and you're gonna fight, and then the fight's gonna be over. And then now you're going to be like best friends, and that guy's going to join the round table, and you know, like the join the Avengers or join the Justice League or whatever,
or you join your party in an RPG.
Yeah, exactly.
The vibrations I was picking up, in a way, I don't know why, the toy line Visionaries.
Interesting.
Like I was just thinking about them the whole time I was watching this, just because like the colors of like the holograms and like some of the helmet, like. I was obsessed with it. Like, if your action figure had a helmet, I don't know why I was like all in. Like Visionaries, and we'll have to do an episode on
What, Supernaturals?
Oh my god, Supernatural. No, what?
Do you think this started out as a Visionaries pitch, and then it got rejected by Hasbro, so they like turned it into their own?
It's a reject. The Green Knight is a reject. You're right. It's a rejected Visionaries pitch.
Like the mythology of it, like, so in this, like, Gawain's relationship to Arthur is more kind of like a father and son, or like a like he becomes like his heir, like, and it's sort of like a paternal relationship where, like, in the in like the stories, it just seemed to me like they were more like buddies. They were like drinking buddies, and they'd like go off on crazy adventures together and get into all kinds of trouble. And usually, like, Gawain would be the one who like fucks up, who like steps on the trap or whatever that gets everybody like in the cage or whatever. And it's kind of true in that, like, he does it, like, he never like wins a fight in it. He's always messing. Like, the only fight he wins is when he like cuts the Green Knight's head off, and that's that's like his big mistake.
Yeah, those highwaymen take advantage of him.
Yeah, kids basically. Like, he gets like almost killed by like a gang of kids who this like, it's especially like true in T.H. White's work. Like, it's hard to do these kind of like Arthurian knight things without making like these sort of like larger like social critique. So it's like like the very first thing he sees as he like sets off on his adventure is just like the desolation of war, like just this whole like
the what is it, the one kid was like pillaging or like from the dead bodies. He's like, the earth will like suck them up or whatever.
Yeah, which kind of like, that was sort of like the theme, the larger theme of the movie is the idea of like green as like rot and mold and like vegetation growing over like a fallen civilization and stuff, like the earth reclaiming its, and so green, which we think of as like this color of like life and spring and stuff, green as this like color of like death, and then red being like this color of life, or like red was in it, but then orange too, like that fox kept showing up, and you're right, the surreal aspect, and then the rot, like I loved it was like aping like the scene in Blowout when the camera did the 360. It was like on him, and then it does a complete zoom around, and then he's like a skeleton. I was like, I keep thinking about that scene. Yeah, that was like, I kind of gasped because again, like,
I did too.
like it's like his adventure is like over before it began. And I went into this movie not really knowing anything, and it's like, yeah, it could be anything could happen. Like maybe like that's the end of his story, and then the rest of the movie's about something else.
Yeah.
Like anything could have happened. It felt like.
Is what he's seeing real, like, or is like hallucinations, or like
pretty early
he's meeting?
Pretty early in the movie, he takes like psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah, he's like, Gawain, we're gonna dress you. You're a knight. And then here's your favorite fish concert shirt.
Yeah, he's like wearing tie dye. the Gawain and the tie dye knight.
Trey, to stage your autograph.
And then after that, like, that's when the fox starts talking to him, and he sees those like giants walking around and stuff.
And he has to retrieve that girl's head from the lake. She's like, it's down the bottom.
Yeah, that was a pretty creepy scene. That was like, and that was another one of those kind of like just magical mystery kind of things, and like you're not gonna have like a clear resolution and understanding. It was also like one of those things, like, it's like, in horror, like, she's like, go do this thing, and he's gonna go in this water, and this water is like super scary. Oh man. And like, something bad's gonna happen in there, but then also she's like saying, go get my head. So like, he's like going down there to get like, it's creepy to begin with. Like, it's not going to be a surprise. Like, oh no, what is this? It's like, he knows he's going in there to grab, like the skull.
She said, go down there and grab my copy of A Head.
Right. Yeah.
And he comes up with the VHS.
Oh, I thought you meant like the album, but the VHS tape. And the sort of skull, when he gets it, it's like super gross because it's got like a little bit of hair left on top and stuff.
So good.
And like that ghost or whatever, like where he has to like find her head, like was that the same actress who ends up playing like his his like wife that he marries at the
Dude.
end, not like his girlfriend who's the prostitute.
I
wife.
thought the exact same thing.
Yeah,
I meant to like
Yeah.
investigate that and I thought I was like, is she playing? Is she doing like double billing?
Yeah, because that like, you know, that sort of end part where it's like, you know, he you know, doesn't accomplish his quest, and then sort of goes back, and like you see like the whole rest of his life play out, and it's not great, you know, like the way
Yeah.
things play out isn't great, and then, you know, cuts back, and you're like, oh, okay, this is like, you know, this is going on in his head or what, you know, and then he sort of, you know, accepts his fate and stuff.
Does he get? Do you think he gets decapitated?
Well, I mean, you know, I like, you know, the way they put the whole movie together and the way it ends is like pretty smart, and like, you know, it's open to interpretation. So I mean, just kind of like the way, like, and it's sort of about just accepting death and accepting your own mortality and not fighting it. So I feel like, you know, what we see of like his life playing out when he sort of, you know, doesn't, you know, runs away or whatever, I think like the rest of his life is like some version of that, and maybe that was sort of like a, you know, nightmare version or a bad version of it because he didn't accept his thing. But then, you know, that the real way it plays out might have like similar plot beats, but then it's not as, you know, just sort of like cursed or whatever.
Man.
And I don't like And I mean, it is possible that the Green Knight, you know, does like, you know, cut his head off, but I don't think he could, like, when the way the Green Knight says "off with your head,"
Yeah, he was like
it's
playful,
it's
like,
jokey and stuff, and just knowing like the story itself, the way is that he like spares him, he like gives, like the way Joseph Campbell told it was like he gives him like just a little nick with it, and
he
he's
goes,
like,
"Got your nose."
yeah, exactly. He gives him like a little nick, and then he's like, "Ow!" And he's like, "That was for the kiss," you know, because it was like, because in the story it was like, and they have this in the movie too, where it's like he's in this house, and like the master of the house like goes and leaves, and he's like, "Whatever I catch when I'm out, I'll give you, and whatever you get here, you give me." So then it's like his wife like keeps trying to seduce him. And then and he says no, and then eventually she's like, how about just a kiss? And he's like, okay, a kiss. And so they kiss, and then when the guy comes home, he's like, oh, what did you get here? And he gives him a kiss and stuff. So then like when the Green Knight is about to like cut his head off, he gives him just this little nick, and he says that nick is for the kiss.
The kiss. Then he pulls a quarter out of his ear too.
Yeah.
He's like, look at this. Look what I found. Gawain at the end, he like rolls backwards, he goes, look over there. The knight looks. He really goes, he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. And then he's like,
yeah, like exactly. You're right. Like that off with your head is so playful.
It's playful,
like,
how
it's
he did
not
it.
like off with your head. Okay, you know, like.
off with
But
your-
then maybe, you know, like if that's how you want to interpret it, maybe that, you know, maybe he's like, you know, Freddy Krueger or something, where he's like goofing around before he kills you. You know.
He goes, off with your head. Then it's like, let the bodies hit the floor.
You know, Gawain is more of like, you know, like Arthur's heir, and then and he's like, you know, like he's his nephew, you know? And like I don't know if like Gawain is like Arthur's nephew in the story or not. Like I don't remember. It's possible, you know, because like in those like Arthurian, like everybody's related to everybody, you know. But like if he was his nephew, like I think the only sibling that Arthur had was Morgan Le Fay, his sister. So like that's possible, and so, you know, they don't say like her name or anything, but like Gawain's mother in this is like a witch. You know, she's like doing all this magic. And
I
stuff.
love that part
Yeah.
with like the props and like the little items they were using.
Yeah, so I don't know if like that's something they added, this idea of him being Arthur's heir and being his nephew, and like, and you know, and maybe he's a little bit like Mordred, because like Mordred was Arthur's son that he had. He was his son and his nephew. He was like the son that Arthur had with his sister Morgan Le Fay, and then ends up, you know, like he would be Arthur's heir, but then they like kill each other, you know. So you know.
I learned about Percival, the character,
Okay.
from playing
Yeah,
Knights of the Round Capcom game, and I was like, this is where I'm learning my art. Like,
yeah, that's a pretty great game. I like it. Yeah, Percival. I forgot about Percival, but he's like another one of like. I mean, he's not like his name isn't as famous as like Lancelot, but like in that mythology, he's like one of the top guys. Like there's and these mythology.
I was like, this kid is teaching me art.
Yeah,
like,
well, whatever. You know, if that's the first thing, because
yeah,
like,
that's what I did.
because like there's like the Sword and the Stone, like the Disney cartoon, which is based on like T.H. White did like 2 books, and usually like what you get is like this book that collects both of them together, and the first book is the Sword and the Stone, and then I forget what the second one's called, but they just kind of like put them all together. I forget what it's the is it called the Ill-Made Knight maybe? I forget what the TH, but like the T.H. White, maybe it is just called like the Sword and the Stone or something, but it's like these 2 books put together, and like the Sword and the Stone is kind of like, it's like Arthur's young years, and it's like him, you know, learning how to be a king and stuff by spending time with all the different animals in the animal kingdom. So spending time with like the king of the ants and like the king of the rats and the, you know, so he learns how to be a king from all the animals, and like Merlin like tutors him, and then it ends with him like pulling out the sword and stuff, and then the next book, The Once and Future King, that's what it's called, The Once and Future King. And so they called it, like when they put those 2 books together in one book, they just called the whole thing The Once and Future King. But then the Once and Future King thing is more like a little more of like an adult book, a little more grown up, and it's like, so now it's like, you know, Arthur's adulthood and all the Knights of the Round Table.
The Sword in the Stone movie, is where I was vibing. Capcom, and MacGyver. Like when he went back in time, Merlin, he met Merlin, and he was like, MacGyver had a pair of scissors, and he's like, ooh, 2 blades on a pivot point, a genius. Like,
how did that really happen in an episode of MacGyver?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was.
How did they explain it?
I can't remember. Like, somehow MacGyver was back in time, and he had to team up with Merlin.
This sounds like very Jump the Shark. Like, is this the final season, I'm assuming, of MacGyver? I
can't remember. It probably was one of the final seasons, because as I was watching MacGyver, I was from little to like bigger. I kind of remember this one a little more clearly, so you were older watching it. But yeah, I remember Merlin being impressed with MacGyver's scissors.
Yeah, well,
and he's like, 2 blades on a pivot point.
Now, in the T.H. White story, Merlin was born in the future and ages backwards. Like he lives life backwards. So like Merlin's like an old man in the King Arthur stories because he's like born in the future. So he's like Benjamin Button or whatever. But that's like unique to T.H. White's thing. I don't think that's in like L'Amour d'Arthur or any of the, you know, older stuff.
I need to rock that one.
Yeah, they're like a really good like 1-2 punch, those 2 books. And if the viewers have any like Arthurian recommendations other than those 2, those are kind of, you know, those 2, and then the movie Excalibur.
Oh, you know. Yeah, I remember somehow that got shown in high school. Okay. A teacher like screened that.
That's a hot movie.
I was gonna say, I don't know. I think they like, I don't know if it's the edit. I think it had to have been the edited version, because I don't remember it being like. I would have been like, I think my favorite, the best movie I've ever seen in my life. Oh my God.
I think it's got like a naked Dame Helen Mirren in it. You know, young Dame Helen Mirren.
Definitely was the edited version. Yeah. I would have remembered that.
Yeah.
But it was like, I think it was like.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Like we'll have to do an episode to talk about
John Boorman. Yeah.
John Boorman. Yeah.
And also Merlin.
Merlin's great in that movie. Like he does seem like he's like out of time or something, you know.
From the Lego, they couldn't use Merlin. I think the wizard looks like Merlin, but he was Majesto.
Okay, probably because you can like trademark Majesto, but you probably couldn't trademark Merlin.
And I was like, he was one of my favorite Legos. I'm playing Knights of the Round. I'm like, I'm learning shit here, man.
Learning history.
The Knights. I'm gonna beat up this like.
Yeah, like I get, you know, and then that's also like one of those things. Like when you're a kid, you just kind of like assume this is history, because like Knights in, like you go to the Natural History Museum and you see knights in armor, so you're like, but then you get old and you're like, okay, this is fairy tales or whatever.
Yeah. It's like Sir Gawain and the Blue Knight and the Technicolor ninjas. It's like the ninja that has a headband that says ninja. It's like a knight that has like armor that says like knight on it. He's like
I mean, the movie, it just like made a big
I think about it a lot.
Made a big impression on me. Yeah, and I think it is smart. I mean, this is what, it's like an art movie or whatever, and like, so like, you have like a little more room to play, and you can sort of leave things up to, if it were just kind of like a popcorn movie, if it were like, part of like the Marvel movies, or they'd be like, oh, I don't get it. What's it? Did he die or not?
I mean, the director of The Green Knight did another movie that I haven't seen, but it was a couple years ago. I remember hearing a lot about it. Ghost Story.
Okay.
I think his name's like Lowry.
Is it a remake of the old like '80s Ghost Story movie?
I'm not sure. I just know that like it's like about like a ghost haunting house that he's like in the same house through many like decades. I think, and I saw a picture of the director. He has got like an insanely large mustache. Okay. Looks like he's hiding Francopelli in his mustache.
Okay, is he like a hipster?
Hipster.
This was kind of like hipster King Arthur, and so yeah, like the big what's it called?
His mustache wasn't the ones that curl up. This one was just like voluptuous and comes out and looks like Capelli's gonna climb out and start playing from his mustache. There's a character where like. It's like you have a guy hiding in your mustache that jumps out and fights, then jumps back into your mustache.
Yeah, that's like your video game gimmick. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of digital stuff going on, but like you'd see like the Camelot in the background, and it was kind of like credible. It was like it wasn't like just some outlandish thing.
And I loved when he went to that crossroad and saw that skeleton in that like.
Yeah, it was kind of like Hellboy or like Willow.
Mad Mardigan. He's like, looks at the satchel. I'm Mad Mardigan. No, I'm glad we checked that out.
Yeah,
I think about it a lot. I'm
like trying to figure it out and piece it together. Oh yeah, there's like they were just like so much like so many smart decisions there. And again, it's like, there isn't, like, other than when he cuts the knight's head off, which is, like, his big blunder or whatever, the thing that sets the whole adventure or misadventure in motion. Like, there's no, like, other scene in it where he's like, have at ye, like, like, it was pretty smart and, like,
he slaps the Green Knight with a glove across it.
yeah, exactly. Like, because this stuff is, like we said, we haven't seen too many of these medieval movies in a while, and it is really hard to pull off, and it's really hard to not end up in Monty Python territory. So it's like this was a smart way to do it, and like I'm into this stuff. And when like the trailer for this, when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, this looks really cool. And then I guess like it seems like it kind of captured people's imagination in general. Like it seems like there was a lot of like talk online about like, hey, this thing looks really cool.
You mentioned like the it's like Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's like unlike other Green Knights, I can speak with an English accent. No, I'm on board with the Green Knight.
Yeah.
It was just like the visuals too. Like I can't get enough. Like the way they shot the forest, the rivers, like a lot of on location stuff. I know that we could tell they had to use some CGI stuff, but like a lot of it looked like sets, and I was gave it like a feel to it.
What was the like I saw like at, like in the end credits like saying like where a lot of it was filmed, but I forget like
oh man, that's another thing. I wanted to.
It wasn't like New Zealand, like all this the locations from Lord of the Rings.
It's
like it had a different look, and it was like sometimes it's like you see these movies and it's like this is how it really was, and it's like like this felt like it was like it walked a nice line between kind of like long ago and far away, like kind of like a fairy tale setting or like like a legendary setting with like kind of credibility.
Yes. That you're right. It still had like the hipster element, a modern hipster.
Yeah, there's got to be like a better way of describing, but that like I feel like that's like the pitch, the Hollywood pitch meeting. Okay, what are you? It's hipster King Arthur, and 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 I'm going to direct it, and I have a big mustache. And
it's weird. It's
I'm going to get all my friends together. Like we're going to go to Brooklyn, get everybody together, and then we're going to do this thing.
It's weird. Sir Gawain is like always talking about his craft cocktails and urban beekeeping.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's what the
he keeps blabbering about that.
Yeah, artisanal, like his artisanal sword sharpening.
The guy playing like his lyre over there, he said he was there when there was only 3 people watching him. He was like,
Gawain isn't on a horse. He's like riding on one of those bicycles.
Oh, the penny farthing bicycle. He's like 10 feet off the ground and falls over. He's like, yeah, that guy in the tree singing. He's like, I was at his first show when there was 2 people, and it's like sold out, man. Artisanal sword sharp. And like, yeah, you mentioned New Zealand.
Yeah,
it's Gawain's coming by on his horse, and then like Frodo's coming by. It's like that scene from Hot Shots Part 2 when Charlie Sheen and then Martin Sheen, they both go, loved you in Wall Street. They're like, loved you in Lord of the Rings. Dev Patel, great lead. Actually, all the actors did a great job.
Yeah, kind of like the right movie at the right time. Like I don't know. It just kind of, it hit the right note. I felt like. Now
all we need to do is they have to have some kind of sick pirate-based movie.
Yeah.
Cover all the Lego systems.
Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah, we got ninjas. We got sword play. Now we need to get a good pirate movie. Mm-hmm. Something that hits differently than the...
Yeah, because it like when we saw Snake Eyes, I didn't realize like how like in the mood I was for a ninja movie, like a classic ninja movie. And then like when we saw this, it was like, oh yeah, I didn't realize I like was really wanting a night. So it's going to be something to kind of take you by surprise.
Yeah, like maybe I'm gonna have to watch Cutthroat Island.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, did you ever watch the Pirate movie? Have you ever seen that?
No, what is that?
That was like when I was little, that was like a movie that ran all the time. It must have been like, how like you kind of like hit the timing right with like cable or whatever, where it's like, okay, this is like the new thing on HBO or whatever, and so it's like playing all the time. It was like the Pirate movie, and it was a spoof of the Pirates of Penzance. So it was like, it was, and so it had kind of like rock music, combined with like the sort of Gilbert and Sullivan.
I'm gonna have to track that down.
I mean, I haven't seen it since I was like, I loved it. I watched it a million times. Most of the jokes I didn't get, like went over my head. Like all the pirates are like storming this like castle or whatever, and then they're like, something with like a pizza, and he's like, you forgot the anchovies, like that kind of stuff. But I like, again, it's only these like I think the last time I saw this movie was 1983, so it might be like a big turd, but I would like to check it out again.
Oh my god,
the pirate movie.
We need to do our pirate episode one of these days.
Yeah, maybe we'll see if we can track down the pirate movie.
I'm all about it,
because it was I think what's her name, one of the empty nest daughters.
Oh my god,
who were the empty? It was,
I can never remember, because
it was like the one girl from Greece, and then like the sister of Christy McNichol.
Okay,
it was Christy McNichol was the lead in the pirate movie.
That's awesome. Like, I'm a fan of the entire cast of Empty Nest. But at first I thought they did some casting because the 2 daughters looked too much alike. I was like, who's who? But then I think they changed their hair up.
Right, one of them went red.
Yeah. And then the neighbor was the first time when I was
Joey Suzu.
Joe Zuzu. He was the first time I heard somebody be called cheap, because I would watch it with my nonny, and she'd be like, "He's so cheap. Well, he comes over and eats all of his
their food."
And I was like, cheap. I don't understand what that is.
Like I always wondered like why Richard Mulligan let this guy in his house, because he'd come in, eat all his food, and then like sexually harass his daughter.
Yeah, and he's just
like, "Oh, there's my buddy." What was his name? Harry was Richard Mulligan, and then what's the neighbor's name? Yeah, I forget his name.
Joe Zuzu, though.
Joe Zuzu, yeah,
from the commercials. And he would come over. You're right, sexually harass his daughters and empty his fridge out.
Yeah.
Like he's making himself
that's
breakfast.
you could do one or the other, but you can't do both.
You can't do both at my house. And then that dog, the big dog, I can't remember.
Yeah, Dreyfuss.
Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
It was funny because, like, in the original draft script, they
Richard Dreyfuss slaying the dog. You know, he had like he had 2 ears, like 2 dog ears. Like he wore 2 socks on his ears.
His method.
He was like Bob Dog from Mr. Rogers.
Leading up to it, he said he was method acting because he had a barrel around his neck filled with booze.
For this King Arthur stuff, like it's best to like understate things. So it's like, King Arthur shows up. They don't call him King Arthur. Excalibur, they don't call it Excalibur. His mother is Morgan Le Fay. They don't call her Morgan Le Fay. And, I think I might have seen Merlin in it, too. Because, like, when he's first leaving on his adventure, and it's kind of this, like, slow shot of him, like, on his horse walking, and he's walking past, like, all the, like, sort of locals and stuff. There's, like, a shepherd, like, with, like, a bunch of sheep and stuff. And he's wearing this thing, and he's wearing this outfit with, like, all these feathers on it. And it's, like... That's how I draw Merlin, and I don't know if I'm getting it from some source that I forgot or something. But like when I draw Merlin, I draw him like where his like cloak is kind of like an owl.
Dude, that's so awesome.
With like feathers and stuff. So I was like, oh, is that supposed to be like just this quick little shot of Merlin?
That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie when he's riding out of town. Like I can't get enough of it.
Because you see the sort of Camelot in the background, and it. You get like more of a view of it little by little as he's walking.
And the landscape, there's those broken down buildings along the road, and the kids are like, I'm like, they're gonna give up sometime. When see ya.
Yeah, and it was just like a really good way of handling this kind of material, like a lot of and making it feel kind of like relevant and interesting, and not just some like laughable thing from another era. The way they handled the sort of chapter titles and credits and things reminded me of Snake Eyes. Like Snake Eyes was like that, kind of like a modern kind of,
Yeah, I would, the Snake. You're right. Like
where like the like little titles and chapters kind of like show up in the
like a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, that must That's be
what
like what
I was trying. I was trying to think about during the movie, and now it just popped in.
Mm-hmm. He's at like the house when he's about to go to like the chapel where he's going to meet the Green Knight, and then like the guy's wife is like, "Oh, let me do your portrait." And so you think he's going to be like standing and getting like, which earlier in the movie and he's like, "Oh, I already got my portrait." She's like, "Well, probably not the way I did." And then like you see, she's in this dark room and she opens the thing, and then like his image is like upside down, and I thought like, "Oh, cool, she has like a camera obscura," which like you would have used in like the Renaissance or whatever, like where it would project like an upside down image, and then you would kind of like trace it, and that's how you get these like beautiful like photorealistic, like the Dutch masters and stuff, like they would all use this
device. Wow, that was awesome. Yeah, that's so cool.
But then in this, it's actually a camera. She's got this plate that it projects on, and then its image shows up.
Was she like rubbing like chemicals on?
Yeah, putting like chemicals on it and stuff. So it's like, oh, cool. That was just such a great scene. And like it always feels like really effective in movies when you have like a scene where it is about like light being projected. Mm-hmm. It's like when like a when a medium talks about the medium within the medium. Like I'm thinking of like the movie like A Matter of Life and Death or whatever, where that guy has this like room where he can see project. Oh, it's great. You got to check that out.
I'll have to check that out. Wow. Yeah. Matter of Life and Death and the pirate movie. I can't wait, Tom.
Yeah, like the pirate movie kind of came out around the time of like the airplane movies and stuff, where it was like, like, oh, we're doing spoofs now. We're doing spoofs, and that was kind of like, this big, and the movie Top Secret, like where it was like, okay, we're doing spoofs, and then that kind of fizzled out. Too many shitty spoofs, and then it kind of came back with like the scary movie stuff, like that, and again that burned itself out too, like that. There's just like way too much of that stuff.
The Top Secret, he's like, I know a little German. He's right over there.
Yeah, like I thought when I saw that movie as a kid, I thought it was like the most intellectual thing ever. You know,
or like he's
like the guy has like a magnifying glass, his eyes real big, and then takes the magnifying glass away, and his like eye is still real big.
Or he's like, you dropped your fake dog crap, and he's like, I don't have fake dog crap.
Yeah. These are. I remember like 3 things from that movie, and like you named all of them. Yeah, what, like, are we just stealing 2 thumbs up from Siskel and Ebert, like from their cold dead hands?
I'm like 2 vines up,
2 likes. I mean, I guess the whole world stole the thumbs up. You know, that's like kind of everywhere.
Well,
maybe like 1 more. Oh, the other thing, like, just like when he gets to the Green Knight's chapel, and it is just this like sort of like, you know, green space in the middle of the forest and all these like leaves. And it reminded me. There's this Barry Windsor Smith story called The Beguiling, and it's about this like knight who gets sort of caught in this like sort of trap and ends up being like trapped within like ivy, and just kind of like the ivy grows around him and stuff, and it was evocative.
I'll have to check
of that out.
Yeah, it's called The Beguiling.
The Beguiling, yeah. It's like a short story, and I think like it showed up originally in some like Marvel anthology, but like it's in Barry Windsor Smith's, I think it's called Opus. It's like this art book, 2 volumes, cool. And one of them has it in. Yeah, great visuals, great sets, great practical effects. You know, that thief, that like kid, you know,
he looks so familiar. Who is that kid?
And he was like, it was good casting. Like he kind of seemed like somebody who would be in like a Harmony Korine movie or something. Yes! Like he seemed very like genuine and kind of like somebody who'd seen a lot of bad stuff in a very short amount of time.
And he looks like he has a great look. He's like not like normally probably wouldn't non-symmetrical face.
Yeah, like and like I don't know how much of like this facial scarring was like special effects and how much was just like, you know, this is just like what this guy looks like.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, you know, when you think about like the Middle Ages and stuff, and there's kind of like the glamorized version that you'd see in like an old movie, like Ivanhoe, or like a, you know,
First Night with Richard Gere.
Yeah, or like you know, Robin Hood with what's his name, Errol Flynn. Yeah, like that kind of thing. And then there's like, okay, what it probably was, and like everybody's like real, like you know, life is what you know, brutish and short or whatever. You know,
what we were saying, like
King Arthur maybe, you know, was like lived to be like 14 years old.
Oh my gosh! You know what I mean? Everyone, looks sickly and like see-through skin. It's like, man, rough days.
Yeah, like Arthur and Guinevere. You know, like think about like Guinevere in Excalibur. You know, super 80s glammed up, yeah. and then in this like, and you know, Gawain goes on his adventure, and then when he comes back, like, Arthur is like, you know, at death's door, you know.
The cool crown he puts on.
Yeah, badass
cool costuming.
Crown. Yeah, that like opening scene too, that like foretells doom or whatever, was pretty great.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And like
this is how you do it, you know. Mm-hmm. And even like the ending with like, you know, keeping it kind of like unresolved and stuff. I feel like a lot of this movie and a lot of the cool stuff in it probably came out in the edit too, where it's like maybe they did film like kind of like a more straightforward, like this is this how the story goes, but then they kind of like maybe like moved some stuff around, chopped some stuff off, and came up with like something I felt like really worked.
That'd be so cool to like shot a movie and then like get to the editing process has to be pretty neat.
Yeah, like you know, and again, like some movies are sort of like made in the edit, you know, like you sort of have your plan, but then you like new opportunities emerge in it. There's
a book I wanted to read. I'll have to get it. It's like Paul Hirsch, like the Star Wars edit. It's called like In an Editing Room Far Away. Mm-hmm. If I can get my hands on that, we'll have to check to do like.
Well, as like a Star Wars nut, that's kind of like the famous movie that's like saved in the edit, you know, where it was like. But anyway, you've been watching Total Recall show, Gawain and the Green Knight. Is that the title? Was it because like the end title was just the Green Knight?
I think the title is the Green Knight.
The Green Knight. Okay, so it wasn't Gawain and the Green Knight. I'm just in my mind going to see this movie. I'm adding Gawain and the Green Knight because that's how I've always heard of the story as being Gawain and the Green Knight.
The first Green Knight with Richard Gere.
Yeah, right. First Green Knight. Gawain and the Green Knight, or Garwin, or Gaffin in the Green Knight.
There's they're battling again. Noel and Liam Gallagher. It's like, we've got some entertainment for the court. He's going to smashes thy watermelon.
That would be Gallagher. That would be kind of cool if, like in Back to the Future 3, if they had Noel and Liam Gallagher playing like lutes or something.
Right? Yeah, he's
yeah.
Like I like how they're like, the court jester has arrived. You were like, Gallagher.
Yeah.
Off with his head, you've got watermelon juice on me, lady.
Yeah, you have to, I'm going to hit your head with this hammer like a watermelon, and then a year later, you can hit my head. Gawain and Gallagher.
And the bad guy, isn't there like evil, like his Gallagher too, his brother was like, he was suing his brother because he like
Gallagher. There were two Gallaghers fighting over who gets to be like they covered two different territories, and I think Gallagher 2 started impinging on Gallagher 1's territory.
Gallagher, he's like, stay away from that area. The evil of Gallagher 2.
So Gawain or Gallagher and the Green Knight, and it's like when the Green Knight shows up, his head is just like a giant watermelon, and it's like, you can smash my head with a hammer, but a year from now on Christmas Day, you come to the Green Chapel and I'll smash your head.
When I would go to like Far More Video to rent movies when I was little, I never rented it, but I would pick it up. It was one where like his head was like, he was like in a watermelon patch, and like his head was like, I'm like. This is the fucking weirdest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, what is who's this for? And what is this?
There was stuff like that when I was a kid, where like you'd be at school or be like on the playground or something, and then somebody would like tell you about something, and you're like, what? And like you felt like you had like that was Gallagher. It was like, I remember there was like some girl like when I was in first grade, like at the in the cafeteria, and she's like talking about Gallagher and this and how great. I'm like, okay, I gotta check this out. And he's got a water, and everybody wears rain slickers or whatever, and so that they don't get splat. And he smashes watermelons with a sledgehammer. And like, I gotta check this out. So then like I remember being in like the Errol's video, looking at the VHS tapes, and there was like the Gallagher section. There were a bunch of them, and it was like, okay, Gallagher stuck in the '60s, and it's like I don't know anything about the '60s. I'm going to skip that one. It's like I forget which one. Like it was just one that I picked, and I watched it, and it was like it starts out with him riding around the stage on like a school desk, like the little desk you'd have at school, and he's riding around, and he just keeps saying style. Style.
Tom,
style. And he's like, and this whole thing is like, you gotta do things with style, and that's what gets you like started on this journey with him that ends with him smashing watermelon.
Because it would be something like for Time Life on TV. It's like, or the Gallagher collection or whatever, and then I would see him like hit the watermelon. I like smashing a watermelon just as much as the next guy, but the audience would go ape shit. I'm like, who is it? Like how? It's not. I'm like,
yeah. I mean,
I'm not connecting with it.
I felt like I wanted to be in on the joke like real bad, so I kind of like, kind of was invested in. I like kind of went on the
style.
Style. And then he he starts smash like the reason why the crowd gets excited is he kind of picks things that like people are kind of like angry about, or so like I think like now. If Gallagher, he'd like get out some like COVID masks.
And
I'd be like, these masks. I can't breathe. And then because like and like the one part of it that I was into was like he pulls out an Intellivision. He's like, this stupid Intellivision, and he's like, what the real problem is? It's the controllers, and then he starts smashing the Intellivision, and like that was spot on because like the Intellivision controllers are just awful. They're like like Atari got it right with the joystick, and then everybody tried to get like overly fancy with their thing,
So it's his evil brother Gallagher 2. He's like the evil lurks in the heart of Gallagher 2. Sir Gawain. Oh, wait, what is it?
Sir. It was Gallagher and the Green Knight. Yeah.
Meet me back in 1 year to smash thy watermelon. Also, his like he had that like paid like newsboy cap with like the goofy like.
Well, he looked like the guy from Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Oh my God! Is it David Crosby?
He looked like David Crosby. Yeah, like it was. It was like he saw that look. It was like I'm going, and it's like the '80s, and I guess like he didn't realize like the times had kind of moved on, but he was still
that he's on the desk. Style.
Like he just. I mean, it was like that was his moment. Like he was the big and like I said, like there was a whole shelf. VHS tapes that were just him.
I just can't get over the one where his head is painted like he's like his face is coming out of a watermelon. Like, I probably looked at that like
we're gonna have to do a Gallagher because it is like one of those things like if you didn't like live through the Gallagher era, it's like what are you talking about? It seems like something like somebody made up. There's no way this was a real guy. Like this is like a spoof of stand-up comedy or whatever.
I went as Gallagher for Halloween.
Did you?
I made a mallet out of a dowel rod in a Quaker Oats container, and then
so he had like the. I want to hear more about that, but I'm starting to see like a clearer picture of Gallagher, and he had like the sort of curly hair. He had like the mustache and stuff David Crosby, and then he had like this like Newsies cap, this like black Newsies cap, and then stripes like this, and like it was kind of like he was like David Crosby wearing Art Garfunkel's clothes,
and like I didn't know what like I just liked the image of him. I didn't know what we were talking about his act, like I didn't know what he did or like. What I was like, I know he looks like that, and he smashes a watermelon, so I'm going to dress up like him for Halloween.
And it's sledge-o-matic. He calls it sledge-o-matic. Now he it is like if you want to have like a huge hit that is like crosses all boundaries and is like everybody like it's like the biggest thing ever. You got to make something like really dumb, and this is like a good example of that. It's just like this really he has this really dumb stand-up act, and he was like the king of comedy for a period, but from like 1982 to 1984.
I did see Carrot Top live.
Yeah, Carrot Top was like the heir apparent. He was like, okay, Gallagher dropped the ball. It's my turn. Hold my beer.
Because like
I mean a prop comic. Like a prop comic, it's one of those things that like within like the stand-up comedy world, stand-up comedians kind of laugh at prop comics or like a guitar act. A guy who makes like spoof guitar songs as part of his stand-up act, but.
I put Gallagher above the spoof guitar guy. Like I love he had the one gag where it was like Keith Richards' guitar. It came out and there was like an IV with it. He rolled it out.
Yeah,
he cracks me the fuck up.
Yeah, we'll have to do a Carrot Top. So the Green Knight, Carrot Top, Gallagher, what else? Star Wars.
We got a lot on.
Yeah, we got a lot.
It's going to be
we're over a little over an hour, so I think maybe it's time to wrap it up.
We got a great slate on deck.
Yes, exactly. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be an interesting edit. This is going to be like a Marsha Lucas level, saving it in the edit.
This one we set out to talk about the Green Knight. We ended up talking about Empty Nest.
Yeah, Empty Nest.
Gallagher.
The pirate movie. I forgot about these little side trips. So this has been The Green Knight and All That Other Stuff episode of Total Recall Show. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, Fantastic Four Grand Design, and Transformers vs. G.I. Joe.
Matt Zeoli.
And you can check out my Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search Tom Scioli, and you can see all the comics that I'm currently working on. And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli or on Instagram at Tom_Scioli. You
can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
And we'll see you next time. We'll see you 1 year from now in the Green Cathedral.
Gallagher is going to bop us on the head exactly 1 year from today.
With the sledge-o-matic.